this is Melissa Myers with Sila Grow BC. We're out here at our corn plot of 2020. We're very disappointed that you're not out here with us to celebrate the corn season and check out how all the corn did. We look forward to sharing this video with you, and sorry we couldn't have lunch with you this year.
Alexis, could you explain the difference between the flint dent and the full dent corn, and how to determine when to harvest them?
Absolutely. So as you can see, there's a real visual to it at finish. So our flint dent basically is flinty hard, although you can sometimes see some remnants of dimpling still there. So what this product does when it starts to dry down is it dimples, it looks like it's going to dent, and then as it finishes, it sort of pops up a little and hardens over, and it literally changes color. Some of them go golden red like the 4126, or others just go sort of a goldy popcorn buttered color. Our full dent, as you can see, absolutely dents. That's just what it does. Okay, it dents in and dries down, and as it does, another thing that's different is the kernels pull away from each other. Oftentimes full dents dry down faster than flint dents. The moisture's locked in here for longer. These pull away from each other and do a full, complete dry down quicker. Looking at cores, for the most part, there aren't a lot of differences that way. We've got nice kernel depth here, small core, that's great, but you can see the way the kernels stand, they're slightly different. When you're looking at it, some people will just read the line. So this is it looks like it's dried down, here's my milk line. What I find useful, if you can hold that, thank you so much, is I like to take a kernel and I like to cut it like a piece of bread. And I like to open it up, and I like to read. I'm going to put this on the black of his jacket. I like to read my starch line or my milk line here. This is ultimately complete. They've got nice starch. There's our dent pucker, and we have some moisture here at the base. Okay, but our flint, which has a harder finish to it, how does it look? We have our nice starch finish here, but note that we literally are halfway down to milk line, okay? It's not as dried all the way through, so there is ultimately more moisture in our flint than there is in our full dent, even at a similar heat unit and at the same time in the field. So we're gonna talk a little bit about grain fill. What's always important with looking at your cob isn't just taking a look at how the product looks this way, but also cracking it open and looking at it this way. Things to note are size of core, okay? We like small core and deep kernel. Also, we look at how many kernels around we have, and they're always even. You can always count by twos, they're always even. The other thing to note is on a season like this year, you can sometimes have ratios. A cob might have, say, 12 rows to 18 rows, or 16 rows to 20 rows. Normally what I've seen this season is we're not getting the optimum rows as we normally would, again, potentially based on a cooler start or a tougher start to the season. Here, I like the look of both these cores. We have nice kernel development. But if you actually look at the size of the cob, we aren't looking at cobs that are as long as we would normally like. So we still have nice grain fill, we just don't have as large a cob development. Hi there, it's Alexis Arthur from Pacific Forage. I'm out here in Salmon Arm, British Columbia on a rainy day. One that we probably would have had our Salmon Arm barbecue and corn event with Sila Grow, who put on a corn trial every year for us, and we host a big event to celebrate their clients, our clients, and give a little bit of information on corn. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we're unable to do that. So what we're doing is we just want to mark this year's trial. because it was a bit of a tough year from a growing standpoint. We had a very cool spring. We had a bit of a slow start for some of our product, and we want to take a look and see what did well, what maybe didn't do as well, and of course we have some new products that we would have been introducing to clients when they were able to come. So first off for us, we always start our trials low heat unit to high heat unit. We have Thunder 7673, which has been in this trial for a whole lot of years. And we've got Pride 1017, which was new last year. Both of these are very low heat unit products, about a 2050 CHU to a 2100. Maybe it'll mark a little higher, but it operates like a lower heat unit than that. What's interesting here is our Thunder 7673 usually does exceptionally well. We've got a number of clients I know who use it and have a lot of success with it. There's a beautiful height to it, good leaf, and excellent cob that dries down effectively. Unfortunately this year, she's had a tough go. She didn't deal very well with this cool beginning. She's a little stunted in height, although she has some good cob production. On a year like this, when you're hoping for a bit of yield, we're not seeing it as well here. Although on this side we do see some good cob fill. On the opposite side, 1017, as you can see, this is a tall product, and even in this season it did well with height. Also puts on a nice cob. It has a bit of a different structure and stature to it. You can see the red on the plant itself, but you're noting a nice cob fill again. Seeing less cob, not as big a cob, but a nice fill to it. So from a low heat unit standpoint, by comparison on this year, the 1017 was more of a successful product than the 7673. Staying in our lower heat unit section, but moving up just a little bit, we've got Thunder 6875. Came into the plot a number of years back. Really strong plant. You can see a similar good stature in comparison to that 1017. As we were discussing cob development, there is smaller cob development here and not as much cob fill on the top, which we'll discuss a little later. So still a decent stand. Cob's finishing fine, but not as large. Seeing that a lot this season. The plant was fine, the cobs can fill, they aren't as large, and we're speaking to that being about that cool beginning to the season. On the other side, 6977, this is a new product. This is a grain product for Thunder. As you can see, what that means usually is shorter stature, which is what we're seeing here, but good grain fill and good cob. I'm going to suggest that we maybe did not get the cob out of this that we expected this year, but nice tip fill, full dent finish. Again, we can speak to the differing kernels. What I want to point out here is you're seeing on both sides of the VT2P rib. Just a reminder, we have Roundup Ready corn that is obviously Roundup Ready traited. VT2P is also Roundup Ready traited, but it also has a corn ore trait to it, which means it is not susceptible to the corn ore bug. Do we have that here in British Columbia? No, but the suffix for it is VT2P, so don't worry, you are Roundup Ready covered by this, there's just an extra trait. Rib is refuge in a bag. That references that they have some seed in that bag that is not traded for the corn borer to help minimize resistance development. Now we're moving into our still low but mid-high heat unit. We're going to get into a group here where we call these our Workhorses. This is our product that moves a lot in the area for people who are mid-heat unit range, want tons, want the finish, but don't necessarily want to use a higher heat unit product, and it usually meets the mark. A lot of dry matter opportunity there. Thunder 4578's been in this plot for years. Still a great goer. What's great about it is in usually cool, wet springs, it's got vigor and it pushes through. And we are seeing that here. We did get our height. We do have a good plant in front of us, and we have a full cob behind me. Again, is it as large as one would expect, say, last year? No, probably not, but it hasn't suffered sufficiently, too much. So that's excellent for it. Here's Horizon. Horizon's a new line that's been made available to us, and all the dealers Sila Grow is able to carry it as well. Horizon 675 would be what I think they consider their workhorse. Does well in low heat unit, a good amount of height, and real cob development and grain. Their real focus is on how much corn they can get on that cob. It's had, I think, a good year here. Again, the cob I think has suffered somewhat, but the grain production on it and the number of rows has been quite interesting, and we're looking forward to seeing what the yields and feed values on these new horizons are going to be. Thunder 4126, speaking of workhorses, 4126 has been in the field for a lot of years. An excellent product, does very, very well. The difference is you would normally see on it, it's looking quite dried out here. I think some of that can speak to the area it is in the field, but also possibly the year. Has a pineapple leaf stand to it and a flint dent finish on the cob. Here you can see this, although on this right here we're looking pretty good, but it's run into trouble in filling and finishing the cob this season in this field. I'm not seeing that everywhere, but again, I am seeing smaller cob production. Over here we've got Pickseed 2563 GSX. This is Pickseed's lower heat unit product that is rootworm traited. Currently up here in the interior, the rootworm has not come, which is exceptional, but it's good to know that this one exists, and so we've been putting it in the plot just so people here know what they would have available if they needed it. It's a very good plant, nice height. You can see within, between the two of them, good height to it. Very nice leaf, good leaf development. Also nice cob and quite a good fill. A different cob, not that flint dent that we see with our 4126, so a different body to it. But again, traited also for Roundup Ready, but with the rootworm trait. Horizon 2220. Again, Horizon being a new line that we've got access to. We've been given a number to look at to see how they fit within the portfolio of the product that Sila Grow can carry. What I have here is a very nice stand, good leaf build, and again, Horizon's focus, there seems to be a lot on that grain development and that cob. I'm happy with what I see here. Again, probably not seeing as big a cob as would normally expect, but I am definitely interested in getting sort of starch, feed value, digestibility numbers on these lines and seeing how they produce. We're now going to get into a tough part of the field. Sometimes this field works really effectively across the board, and sometimes if we get in a little late it dries out. And that's essentially what's happened for some of our mid to higher heat unit product is we've gone dry. So the plants themselves look quite stressed. It's another way for us to learn things about these plants, but unfortunately their look can be quite affected by it. So my Pride 4646 G2, I want to speak that G2 is just like the VT2P we saw earlier in the Thunders. It has a Roundup Ready trait and a corn borer trait. This is an exceptional product, great, not as tall as some of the others, but great stand, good standability, and very, very good cob production. You can see in behind me the cobs are filled well, and there's almost always a lot of grain on a 4646. It's a good product, but a little higher heat unit. We're now working into the 2350 heat unit range. Pride 1027, I won't lie, it's a Roundup Ready, but I won't lie, I'm a little disappointed because this is a showy corn. It's the first year that we're taking a look at it, so I had a bit higher hopes for the look of it here in the plot. 1027 RREDF, that is a leafy, broad, silage-based corn for Pride. You can definitely see the height. You can see the cob potential, but again, under sort of stress of, I think, a cool start, but also this drying out, us lacking or missing some of the nutrient that would have been there for us to pick up, has affected the plant as a whole. We will, as a bulk of the higher heat unit product is gone through this same thing, we will be comparing apples to apples in the plot data, but on another year it might be a better looking stand to see. we spoke earlier about the rootworm Pickseed product. This Horizon 2536 is also rootworm traded. I've seen it, it should be a little taller than this, and it does have a very large cob that develops on it. Again, in this area of the plot, we're not seeing it as much, but a very good potential for yield. However, the heat unit on it is closer to 2400. Our Pride 4705, we would normally have a bit better stand behind us. The height is still here, but we don't have the cob finish on it at all. She suffered in this area. And now we're coming to the end of the plot with regards to both hybrids that are here, but also moving into that higher heat unit. So we've got 1047 that rests at about 2450 heat unit. And then we've got 5383G8. Again, that G8 reference, it has multiple traits on it, multiple. I have it in here because it is rootworm traited, so I'm wanting to take a look at it and see how it would finish from a high heat unit standpoint. Here up in the interior, that's my best way of gauging. Unfortunately, on this season, it hasn't sort of panned out necessarily the way I'd like. The 1047 RREDF, there's that digestible fiber reference that talks about it being their leafy silage product. We can see the potential height it always has. We can see where it would normally be a pineapple leaf, but again, it dried out in this section of the field quite intensely. We have filled cobs on it. We see that full fill on grain, but they absolutely aren't as large as they normally would be. This is usually a really stellar yielding product, big beefy product. We aren't necessarily seeing that here in this plot, although elsewhere in other people's fields it's definitely done well this season despite the difficult start. For my 5383, this is not a product I've had a lot of experience with. Again, I wanted to take a look at it here. I see a nice height to it. Obviously the 1047 trumps it. A nice height to it. I can see a full dent finish on the cobs there. I definitely see potential on grain fill. We'll get the yield off of it, but this is maybe not the year to have got all the information I wanted off of it.